Hello and welcome. My name is Zafar Iqbal, and you are watching the Mojo Story. 7 years ago, on this day, terrorists attacked an army installation in Uri near the line of control, in which 18 soldiers were killed in action in the line of duty. And that, that attack was avenged in a matter of just 10 days by carrying out a surgical strike across the line of control. And the corps commander at that point in time in Kashmir was Lieutenant General Satish Dua, who joins us today on our show. Welcome to the show, sir. Welcome to the show, sir. 7 years ago, I was just reading your tweet. You saying that 18 September is the darkest day of my life. On this day, 7 years ago, terrorists attacked our base at Uri, and we lost 18 soldiers. Was the corps commander. We avenged their loss by bold surgical strike in 10 days. But when you look back, 7 years have passed, and how do you see the situation developing on the ground or changing on the ground, if I may say? Today, there's an encounter that is underway in Anantnag. It's the sixth day of that encounter. Already, four security force personnel, including a colonel, a major, and a DSP of the Jammu and Kashmir police, have died, and the operations are still going on. What is your assessment of the situation on the ground?
Zafar, thank you for inviting me. On this day, especially, uh, every year, this day, and even otherwise, I live through this. And I say it's a dark day of my life because I can't get over the fact that I lost 18 soldiers on my watch. I was the corps commander. Similarly, when I was battalion commander on the LOC, in such encounters and enemy actions all put together, I lost 8 soldiers on my watch, two of whom were officers. So, such things, and I've written a book about it called India's Brave
Yeah.
Heart. But such things um, have a deep impression on your psyche. Uh, s- uh, there are over the last 3 decades, 3.5 decades, there have been so many encounters with terrorists. There have been so many operations in whole of Jammu and Kashmir. Sometimes more, sometimes less. Sometimes we have had successes. Sometimes we've had mixed success, meaning there has been success, but we've also had casualties. So some operations are more high profile than others. Some moments are more high profile. They stay in your memory, like the Uri operations stay in your memory for the large number that were killed, and for a retaliatory surgical strike that was launched, which sort of set the stage for something bigger also later. This operation, which is just being concluded, I think. I mean, the sanitization operation
Yeah,
must
it's
still
going
be
on.
on, will be going on. I mean, as I can understand, but the operation per se, I think in that cave, terrorists have been neutralized. But we lost 3 brave hearts. In fact, four. One later succumbed to his injury in the hospital, and three of them in leadership positions. The last time we lost a commanding officer was, I think, 3 years ago in Handwara,
Yeah.
21 RR. When you lose a commanding officer, uh, it has a very different impact on the morale of the soldiers. It does uh, bring you a steely resolve that you must avenge the death, but it does impact the morale of the unit, the soldiers, of the nation. Isn't the whole nation agog with this? um, and that is why this becomes so high profile. The all Everyone has been commenting last 4 days. The fact that the encounter went on for 4 days, I will just talk about that as to why that,
Yeah.
in my view, why that happened. But the mood of the nation. I mean, everyone is calling out, "Let's do a surgical strike again." And because we've had this high profile operation, we've lost brave hearts. I do understand that chagrin. But to give you my thoughts on the operation, before I come to the tactics of it, Zafar, essentially, why is this sudden shift in tactics? And why do I say that? Let me explain. Over the last 4 years, ever since Article 370 was diluted, uh, things have started improving in Kashmir. When I say things, during my time as corps commander, 2015-16, there was so much stone pelting, there was so much
Mm,
violence, there was buns. I mean, you've been there, you and I have been meeting often those days also. Uh, there was schools were closed, buns, hartals, markets closed, tourists not coming. Everything there was a mahal of uncertainty, an atmosphere of uncertainty, and a fear of failure. Now, over the last 4 years, all the parameters have improved. The encounters have decreased, infiltration has decreased, the violence on the streets is almost not there. The schools are not closed, markets are open, tourists are coming in droves, business is prospering. I mean, everything that you can talk of is moving towards normalcy. I'm not saying yes, everything is normal. I'm not getting into that discussion now. But things moving towards normalcy, that is not acceptable to the terrorist tanzeems and even to their handlers across the LOC. And that is why the shift on tactics. What is the shift? Till last year, you and I were talking, and all of us were talking on different channels. We were talking about how there are soft targets, targeted killings. You should go to a chemist shop and then shoot him with a pistol. That is soft target. You go to some immigrant migrant labor was shot. Those are soft targets and targeted killings to instill fear. But then it was in built up areas, in inhabited areas, in villages, towns, where the security forces would lay a cordon, and then it was a matter of time that terrorists would get sort of nabbed, neutralized.
mm,
They have started. Now the number of terrorists have fallen much below. I mean, they're below 100 now.
yeah,
So the numbers are less, avenues are less, and the people giving support to the terrorists have also dwindled. The number of people who give support to terrorists, that means who give shelter to them, who don't rat on them, who do not give their information away, is also going lesser and lesser. And that is the reason why they have moved towards mountains and jungles. Now you take Pir Panjal. Anantnag area, the South Kashmir area, is on the northern slopes of Pir Panjal. Rajouri Punch area is on the southern slope of Pir Panjal. I mean, actually, if you cross Pir Panjal, you can reach that side. So
mm,
it is here that there are a lot of caves, there are a lot of forested areas, mountainous region. So all this makes for a perfect hideout. And also the fact that then they are not dependent on public support, because this area is not inhabited at all. So that is why the shift towards this, because you're seeing in the last fortnight, or last 1 month, we have seen 3 or 4 encounters, except the Baramulla thing that happened yesterday. Rest everything has happened around the Pir Panjal range, whether south or north of it. So that is what uh, is the shift in tactics.
absolutely, absolutely. But you were talking about the natural caves and the natural hiding places for militants in those forests and mountains. That's also perhaps the reason that this encounter at Anantnag is prolonging. That compared to a plain ground in the valley or even in Jammu region, this particular area gives an opportunity and advantage to the terrorists to prolong such operation,
True.
to engage with
Yes.
the security forces for days altogether. And
Yes.
then we're talking about it for days altogether. The narrative of normalcy and other things that we're talking, for a moment, it gets diluted by an event that takes sort of precedence over other things for days. So that may be the tactic, besides engaging with the security forces, but to counter that narrative of normalcy.
Exactly. That's exactly what I said. So that the feeling of normalcy does not set in, you create a couple of high profile encounters. Now, what has happened in these encounters, the terrorist encounters in these mountainous jungle, thickly forested areas, is now everyone is talking about these encounters. We've suffered losses on both sides. The moment you suffer losses, then that feeling of all is not well, that feeling will creep in. So while it is a tactical issue, but the fact of the matter is we've lost brave hearts. Why has it happened? It has happened because of this region. If the in I have operated myself in those in encounters as a colonel, when with my battalion, as a commanding officer, when when terrorists are holed up in caves, They are very strongly fortified and absolutely hidden. Uh, so that it affords them a lot of secrecy, it affords them a lot of security once we came to know exactly where they are. And even then, we have been firing rockets, we have been using drones, we have been using UAVs to for surveillance. We have used grenade launchers, flamethrowers, everything. What happens is there is a very small mouth of the cave, and then you have to be getting your ammunition inside it directly. And even if it hits the cave, it does not necessarily shatter the walls. When we make bunkers, we have 2 or 3 feet of concrete, and we say that if this is a 2 or 3 feet of concrete, it can take a direct hit of a bomb or an artillery shell.
Yeah.
If imagine with couple of feet, if you can get that kind of reassurance, here there is meters and meters of rock
Yeah.
surrounding that cave. So the terrorists are sitting smug that they will not, yes, they cannot escape beyond a point when the cordon is fully established, which is tough call to do, because to cover it from the top side, and we have been seeing on the television over the last 4 days what steep slopes are there, so it is not
Yeah.
easy to go. It is almost mountaineering expeditions go on such kind of vertical rock cliffs. But the fact is, once that cordon was established, then we know that they cannot get away. After all, their ammunition will finish, their ration will finish, their stamina will finish, their patience will finish, they will be sleepless, all that will happen.
Yeah.
But sadly, that we lost losing of those brave hearts, and then that operation prolonging for 3 4 days had the desired effect of, all is not normal.
Yeah. And lastly, one last thing that you touched upon, Pir Panjal range. There were areas in Rajouri and Poonch which were cleared of militancy, but we are seeing more attacks, sort of targeted attacks in Poonch Rajouri. There was an attack on a army vehicle a couple of months, few months ago. Then there were more encounters in Rajouri, and now to this side of Pir Panjal, to the north of Pir Panjal. Why do you think that this particular area has been chosen by the terrorists and their handlers?
So essentially, there are 2 reasons I feel. Firstly, in the valley side, that is north of Pir Panjal, in the valley side, valley has been sewn up very tight. The grid is very robust, whether it is the counter infiltration grid on or around the LOC, or it is the counter terrorism grid in the hinterland. It is so tight that it is very difficult for them to operate. And that is why we started seeing those hybrid terrorists and unknown faces, untrained boys just throwing a grenade or pistol doesn't require training, and that's what they did. This is the first part. The second part is that in south of Pir Panjal, that is Punch Rajouri region, where I have operated extensively in different ranks. Uh, in Punch Rajouri area, there has been a little tapering off the forces. Forces are adequate to cover that area. But then for decades, when you do not have encounters or have very little less operations, and then also that some forces were moved towards Ladakh after the standoff that is continuing with China for over the last 3 years. Then the terrorists and their handlers from across have struck upon this idea that this area can be activated again. First, for the terrain advantages it offers, and also let us remember that in Punch Rajouri area also there are pockets of support and shelter that people can, that is terrorists can expect, and they have their sleeper cells there. As we have seen over the decades, I mean, if you take your mind back to
Yeah.
late 90s, the number of encounters and terrorist operations in Punch Rajouri had exceeded the valley in the late
Yeah.
90s.
So that is the reason that there are multiple reasons: the sleeper cells, the terrain, and also the shift of focus by the security forces and the army, and that's what they are taking advantage of. But uh, uh, that's all the time that we have on the show. But we want to give this update that this operation in Anantnag is still continuing. It's the sixth day of the operation. Obviously, the firefight has stopped, but there could be explosives littered around, and
Yes.
they have to tread very cautiously. This operation will take some more time till the entire area is cleared, and then we'll have a clear picture what exactly happened. But this is precisely the reason that why this operation is taking so long. Difficult terrain, thick forest, steep mountain, and that's all. That goes to the advantage of the terrorists, but security forces have obviously a tough task on their hands. That's all the time we have on the show. Thanks to General Dua for joining us, and thanks so much for watching.
Thank you. Jai Hind.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.